Hey everybody, Casey here with Life Abstract Gaming, and today I want to talk about Microsoft's up-and-coming open-world pirate game, the first-party exclusive, Sea of Thieves. If the words Microsoft and first-party exclusive sound odd together to you, I really couldn't blame you. The house that Gates built has had a truly slim offering of exclusives for a long while now, the last first-party release being Halo Wars 2 in February of last year, so it's literally been over a year without any first-party exclusive games. Executive Vice President of Gaming at Microsoft, Phil Spencer, has since stated on multiple occasions that they are working to build back up the number of in-house developed titles, and that course correction appears to be being led by Rare, one of their earliest and biggest acquisitions. Since Rare was bought by Microsoft in 2002, the developer has largely failed to bring the same kind of quality and acclaim that came with earlier releases like GoldenEye, Perfect Dark, or the Banjo-Kazooie games on the N64. They were soon relegated to developing Xbox avatars and other non-game content until 2015, when Microsoft and Rare announced the brand new IP Sea of Thieves. The reveal was met with a fairly mixed reception. Gameplay wasn't shown until the following year, and it did not do much to sway many gamers. Myself in particular can admit that on the surface, nothing about a cartoony pirate game looked at all interesting to me, and it still doesn't. However, once several journalists were able to go hands-on, there was a consistent amount of positive feedback for the gameplay ideas and the experience. This year, Rare has been holding periodic closed betas and scale tests. I managed to hop into the latest test this past weekend with a friend so I could finally see for myself what Sea of Thieves was all about. Now, I'll preface this by saying this was just a scale test, not the full game, and I only had a few hours with it at that, so take that information into consideration. My immediate first impressions are that I'm not a fan of the look. The cartoon-like aesthetic is similar to games like Team Fortress and Fable versus a higher quality cartoon style like Overwatch. Think of it like the difference between Madagascar from DreamWorks and Zootopia from Disney. It's an artistic choice that just doesn't appeal to me. Aside from the character designs though, the environment is actually really good looking. The ship itself is impressive when looking at it from the outside, and the water is oddly realistic and cartoony at the same time, which I like. And I think Rare knows this, because they decided to go with a very minimalistic HUD when you're not looking to select items from your inventory. All the information you need, aside from health and ammo, you get by looking at the environment. The direction of the wind is animated with breeze lines that you'll need to move your sails into. Stormy weather is denoted by ominous clouds in the distance, and when steering your ship, your only means of navigation are a compass in your peripheral vision and the other crew members. Sea of Thieves has a very high emphasis on cooperation. There is the option to man a solo vessel called a sloop, which I didn't get the chance to try out in the time I played, but even at the selection screen they recommend the 4-person galleon. If you don't have a full squad of 4 players, you get automatically matchmade with players onto a ship. I'm not the biggest fan of playing online with random players, and if I do, I usually mute them. And you can see why.
When I ring the bell, that means get in the captain's quarters. Okay? That's officially what it means. When I ring the bell, get in the captain's quarters. See this thingy? There's an X on it.
Luckily, you can send preset messages to the rest of your crew, telling them things like you've fallen overboard, raise or lower the sails, or the direction you need to be sailing in. It eventually became pretty effective in situations where we needed to get water out of the ship, or we were being chased by enemy pirates. But in terms of figuring out what our objectives were in general, voice communication is probably going to be best, as well as a group of friends you actually want to talk to. Early goings on the ship, I couldn't tell you that I was enjoying myself. As an individual crew member, you have pretty limited actions that you can take while on board the ship at any given time, and those actions are pretty basic tasks like dropping the anchor or adjusting the direction of the sails. For the most part, the most active roles were steering the ship, and even then, once you've pointed it in the correct direction, you're mostly just going to keep it steady. Once we reached an island that we'd located by matching its picture on a treasure map with the same one on the large ocean map on the ship, something I found to be simple yet tedious, we got attacked by scary accurate computer-controlled enemies before we could even leave the ship. We eventually made it to shore, shot and smacked some weak skeleton enemies, then dug up a treasure chest by literally finding a location marked with an X on the picture map. If my time with Sea of Thieves had ended there, my disinterest in the game would have definitely felt justified, and I likely wouldn't ever consider touching it again. But once you find a chest, you need to transport it back to an outpost island, and that's when the game finally began to click. While sailing back, we were attacked by another player-controlled pirate ship. Cannonballs flew back and forth, and our crew scrambled to board up the damage and dump oncoming water. In the time our makeshift crew spent together, we'd sort of fallen into a set of roles, and we were holding our own in the fight. We managed to make contact with a number of our shots that looked to put the other ship out of commission. We started to break away and put some distance between us, but their crew must have been pretty good as well because they recovered and were tailing us. A literal ship chase ensued where we kept adjusting to the wind to try and maximize our speed while another crew member kept lookout on the enemy position. It wasn't enough to lose them though, as they too were adjusting as they followed. I imagine the pressure of the chase finally got to our navigator because he made a mistake and rammed us into a tiny island. After using up all our wood on the earlier repairs, that was it for the ship, so we let it sink, treasure in tow, and took up defensive positions on the island. It would have been pretty simple to pick off the enemy if they were jumping off of their ship after us, but they didn't do that. They were smart enough to drop anchor a ways off the shore and proceeded to bombard the island with cannon fire. We took casualties, and once our numbers were down, they sent in the crew to clean up the rest. We were totally run down, defeated, and robbed of our not all that hard-earned treasure, but the entire ordeal was very fun. The enjoyment came not from any of the quest structure or gameplay elements, but from the emerging narrative of the situation. This isn't a new thing. Games like Battlefield and Grand Theft Auto have emerging gameplay moments like this as well, and those are really big and successful titles to have things in common with. But from what I played, Sea of Thieves seems to be built exclusively around emerging gameplay with friends versus deeper gameplay mechanics, which the other games I mentioned have in spades. While I did enjoy some of my time with Sea of Thieves, I don't see it holding my attention for very long. I haven't seen anything close to the full game though, so I'm hopeful for Rare's sake that there's a lot more that they have planned. Emerging gameplay with a strong emphasis on co-op with friends is a great addition to any game, but the core moment-to-moment mechanics have got to keep your players interested on their own or they're likely to abandon ship. So, did any of you get a chance to play during the scale tests? Are you looking forward to the game, or is it just not doing anything for you? Let us know. We're listening.